This wasn't supposed to go public. But now that the footage is out, there's no stopping what's about to happen next. Because what started as a subtle jab, a slick comment buried inside what fans thought was just another casual diss, has now turned into something way bigger. Something personal, something explosive, and something that could drag two entire camps into full-blown chaos. We're talking about King Harris, 50 Cent, and a confrontation that nobody saw coming until it was already too late. And here's the crazy part. At first, people didn't even take 50 Cent's algorithm comment seriously. It sounded like one of those typical slick, sarcastic remarks he throws around. The kind that fans laugh at, repost, and move on from. But King Harris? He didn't laugh. He didn't ignore it. He took it personally. And according to newly surfaced footage that's now spreading across social media like wildfire, he didn't just respond online. He pulled up. Yeah, actually pulled up. The clip, on which insiders claim was never meant to be seen, shows a tense, face-to-face moment that has fans completely divided. No filters, no edits, just raw energy. You can feel the tension through the screen. And the moment King Harris steps forward, you already know this isn't about social media anymore, this is real. But here's where things get even more intense. Because according to people who claim they were there, what we saw in that viral clip, that wasn't even the full confrontation. There's more. More words, more tension. And allegedly, one statement that pushed things to a level nobody was ready for. Now the internet is in full meltdown mode. Fans are choosing sides. Old beef is being brought back up. And people are asking one question that's getting louder by the minute. Did King Harris just cross a line you don't come back from by confronting 50 Cent face-to-face? Or did 50 Cent underestimate him and accidentally spark something he can't control? Because if this footage is real, then what happens next might not stay on the internet. And trust me, this situation, it's just getting started. If you think this confrontation just happened out of nowhere, you're already missing the bigger picture. Because what we're seeing right now, King Harris stepping up to 50 Cent, tension in the air, voices rising. This isn't random. This is years of energy building up behind the scenes, quietly stacking until one moment finally lit the match. And to really understand why this moment is going viral the way it is, you have to go back. Back to the history. Back to the personalities. Back to the kind of people we're dealing with here. Because on one side, you've got 50 Cent. Someone who's built an entire legacy, not just off music, but off dominance, strategy, and let's be honest, calculated disrespect. He's known for it. He thrives in it. Whether it's interviews, Instagram posts, or subtle jabs, 50 has a way of getting under people's skin without even raising his voice. And most of the time, people don't respond. Because they know better. They know engaging with him usually makes things worse. But King Harris, that's a completely different story. Because King isn't just another name in the mix. He carries a name that already comes with pressure, expectations, one, and a reputation to defend. Growing up in the spotlight, constantly watched, constantly judged, every move he makes gets amplified. And over time, that creates something emotional, something reactive, something that doesn't always sit back quietly when disrespected. And here's where things start getting interesting. Because the so-called algorithm diss didn't just come out of nowhere. According to fans who've been tracking everything closely, it came during a moment when 50 Cent was already speaking on industry trends. How certain artists blow up, how attention works, how sometimes it's not talent but timing and controversy that pushes people forward. At first it sounded general, but then he dropped a line that people instantly connected to King Harris. Something about the algorithm doing more work than the artist. Now on the surface, that could apply to anyone. But the tone, the timing, the way he said it, fans didn't miss it. And neither did King. Because within hours, reactions started building. Clips were reposted, comments flooded in, people tagging King, asking if he was going to respond, pushing him, almost daring him to say something. And here's the thing about pressure like that. It doesn't just sit there. it builds. And for someone already under the spotlight, already dealing with expectations, already trying to prove something, that kind of public challenge hits different. At first, King didn't respond directly. No immediate clapback, no angry livestream, nothing. And that silence? It had people thinking maybe he was going to let it slide. Maybe he understood the situation. Maybe he wasn't going to take the bait. But behind the scenes, according to people who claim to be close to the situation, he wasn't ignoring it. He was watching, listening, waiting. Because allegedly, what bothered him wasn't just the comment itself. It was what it represented. Disrespect, dismissal. A public statement that downplayed everything he's been trying to build. And for someone trying to step out of a shadow, trying to prove they're more than just a name, that hits personal. Meanwhile, 50 Cent? He kept moving, posting, laughing, acting like it was just another day. And that's what made things worse. Because from King's perspective, at least according to what fans are saying, well, it looked like 50 didn't take him seriously at all. Like he was just another topic to joke about, another moment to capitalize on. And if there's one thing that consistently turns small situations into big ones, it's feeling disrespected publicly. Because once that feeling sets in, everything changes. Every post feels like a shot. Every comment feels intentional. Every silence feels louder. And that's exactly what started happening. People began revisiting old clips, old interviews, old moments where 50 Cent spoke about younger artists, about the industry, about influence, and suddenly everything felt connected. Like this wasn't just one comment, but part of a bigger pattern. And as that narrative started gaining traction, the pressure on King grew even stronger. Because now it wasn't just about him. It was about how he responded. Would he stay quiet? Would he speak up? Would he confront it head on? And that's where things took a turn nobody expected. Because instead of responding online, instead of tweeting, posting, or going live, King Harris allegedly chose a different route. A route that instantly raised the stakes. He showed up, not virtually, not indirectly, physically. And that decision, that's what changed everything. Because in a world where most conflicts stay behind screens, a real-life confrontation, that's different. That's unpredictable. That's dangerous. And that's exactly what makes this situation feel so much bigger than just a viral clip. Because now we're not just watching words go back and forth. We're watching two worlds collide in real time. And the moment they came face to face, that's when everything that had been building finally exploded. And trust me, the way that confrontation actually went down, it's way more intense than what people think they saw online. And this is where everything stopped being just talk and turned into something way more real. Because according to the now viral footage and multiple angles that fans are piecing together like a puzzle, the moment King Harris actually came face to face with 50 Cent, you could feel the shift instantly. No music, no distractions, just tension. Heavy, uncomfortable tension. The kind where everyone around knows something is about to go down, but nobody knows exactly how far it's going to go. The clip starts off shaky, like whoever was recording didn't even expect to catch something like this. People are moving around, voices overlapping, and then suddenly, there he is. King Harris. Walking in with a level of energy that didn't look playful, didn't look casual. It looked focused, locked in. And across from him, 50 Cent. Calm, almost too calm. That signature look among the one fans have seen before, where he doesn't react right away, he just watches, studies, waits. And that contrast, that's what makes the moment even more intense. Because on one side, you've got raw emotion walking into the room. On the other, calculated silence. And then it happens. King steps forward. No hesitation, no greeting, no build-up. He gets straight to it. According to what people are saying, and what you can partially hear in the clip, he brings up the algorithm comment immediately. Not joking, not smiling, direct. What you meant by that? Now the room goes quiet. Not completely silent, but quiet enough that you can feel everyone paying attention. Because this isn't social media anymore. This is real time. And 50 Cent? He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't get defensive. He responds casually, almost like it's not even a big deal. And that's what pushes things further. Because from King's perspective, that response felt dismissive. Like he wasn't being taken seriously. Like the confrontation itself didn't even matter. And that's when the energy spikes. Fast. King's voice gets louder, more aggressive. Not out of control, but definitely not calm anymore. He starts breaking it down, talking about respect, about how things are said publicly, about how comments like that hit different when your name is attached to them. And the people around, you can see it. Some are trying to step in. Others are just watching. Phones are out. Because everyone knows, this is a moment. And then 50 smiles. Not a big laugh. Not something obvious, just a slight smile. But in a moment like this, that's enough. Because that one reaction, it flips everything. And that's when King steps even closer. Now we're not talking across the room anymore. Now it's face to face. Personal space is gone. The kind of distance where one wrong move changes everything. And that's when voices start overlapping. You can't hear every word clearly, but you can feel what's being said. Respect. Disrespect. Names being referenced, energy rising, and just when it feels like it's about to cross the line into something physical, that's when the first twist hits. Because out of nowhere, 50 Cent says something that nobody expected. Something that didn't sound like a diss. Didn't sound like an insult, but hit way harder. According to multiple people breaking down the audio, he says something along the lines of, "You proving my point right now." Now pause. Because that line changes the entire situation. Because suddenly it's not just about the original comment anymore. Now it feels like a setup. Like everything happening in that moment was exactly what 50 expected. Exactly what he predicted. And that realization, it hits different. Because now King isn't just reacting to a comment. He's reacting in a way that might actually be reinforcing it. And for a split second, you can see it, that hesitation. That moment where the energy shifts again. Because now the confrontation isn't just emotional, it's psychological. And that's where things get even deeper. Because instead of escalating physically, the situation turns into something else. A battle of words, of control, of who's really in charge of the narrative. And 50? He leans into it. Calm, controlled. Almost like he's seen this exact situation play out before. Meanwhile, King is still standing his ground, still speaking, still making it clear he's not backing down. And the room completely locked in. Because nobody knows how this ends. Does it calm down? Does it explode? Does someone step in? And just when it feels like it might settle, that's when something else happens. Something small, but powerful. Because in the background of one of the clips, you can hear someone say, "This what he wanted." Now that line, that's the second layer of the twist. Because if that's true, then this whole situation might not have been accidental at all. It might have been intentional, because think about it. A comment goes viral. The person it's about reacts emotionally. A confrontation happens. Footage leaks, the internet explodes, and suddenly, everyone is talking. Engagement goes up, attention skyrockets, and the algorithm wins. And that's where things start getting uncomfortable. Because now fans aren't just watching a confrontation. They're questioning the entire setup. Was this real, or was this predicted? Was this a reaction, or was it part of a bigger play? And as those questions start spreading, the footage hits even harder, because now every movement, every word, every reaction feels like it could mean something more. And just when people think they've seen the full clip, that's when rumors start circulating that there's more footage. Longer footage. Uncut footage. Footage that hasn't been released yet. That allegedly shows what happened after the moment we've all seen. And if that's true, then what we're reacting to right now might only be the beginning. Because whatever happened after that confrontation, people are saying it changes the entire story. And if that clip drops, everything we think we know about this situation might flip overnight. And just when the internet thought it had already seen the most intense part of the confrontation, that's when things took a turn nobody was ready for. Because remember that rumor about unreleased footage? Yeah, it didn't stay unreleased for long. Within hours, a second clip started circulating. At first, people thought it was fake. Low quality, shaky, different angle. But the voices, the environment, the timing, it matched. And once fans realized this wasn't just another repost, everything escalated. Because this clip didn't show the buildup. It didn't show the approach. It showed what happened. After that moment where things got face to face, and let's just say, the energy was completely different. No more calm, no more controlled tone, no more subtle back and forth. This was heated. Voices raised. People talking over each other. You could hear frustration on both sides now. And then, clear as day, you hear King Harris say something that instantly sent shockwaves across social media. According to multiple breakdowns, he says, "You keep playing with my name like it's a joke." Now that line, that's not just a reaction. That's a statement. That's built-up frustration finally being said out loud. And this time, 50 Cent didn't respond with silence. He responded directly. Still calm, but sharper. More direct than before. And this is where the shocking reveal begins to unfold. Because according to what people believe they heard in that second clip, 50 Cent says something that completely reframes the entire situation. It ain't about your name. It's about what you're doing with it. Now pause, because that line hit different. Suddenly, this isn't just about disrespect anymore. It's about perception. It's about credibility. It's about how someone is viewed in the industry versus how they see themselves. And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because now fans aren't just debating who's right. They're debating what that statement actually means. Is 50 saying King hasn't earned his position? Is he questioning his talent, his impact? Or is he calling out something deeper? Something fans haven't been paying attention to. And that's when the internet does what it always does. It starts digging. Old clips resurface, interviews, performances, comments. People comparing timelines, analyzing growth, questioning whether the algorithm comment was really just a joke, or something more intentional. And then, another detail surfaces. A big one. Because in the same clip, easy to miss if you're not paying attention, someone in the background says, "This bigger than music, bro." Now that's where everything shifts again. Because if this is bigger than music, then what are we really looking at? Is this about reputation, industry politics, family ties? Because let's not forget, King Harris isn't just another artist. He comes from a legacy, and 50 Cent, he's built a career off challenging legacies. So when those two energies collide, it's never just about one comment. And that realization, it spreads fast. Now fans are connecting dots that weren't obvious before. Some are saying this is about respect across generations. Old guard versus new wave. Others think it's about influence. Who really holds power in the culture? And then there's a growing theory that's starting to dominate the conversation. That 50 Cent wasn't just dissing King Harris. He was sending a message. A message about how the industry works. A message about how attention is created. A message about how quickly things can be controlled, especially when emotions get involved. And if that's true, then everything that happened in that confrontation might have played right into that message. But here's where things go from intense to straight up unsettling. Because shortly after that second clip started going viral, a third piece of content surfaced. Not video, not audio. A screenshot. A supposed leaked message. Now again, no confirmation, no proof. But the timing? Too perfect. The message allegedly shows a conversation between someone close to 50 Cent and another unnamed individual. And in that conversation, there's one line that has completely taken over the narrative. It reads, He walked into exactly what we said would happen. Now, if that's real, and that changes everything. Because now the question isn't who won the confrontation. It's, was the confrontation predicted? Was this reaction expected, planned for, even anticipated? And suddenly the algorithm comment starts looking very different. Yeah, because if you think about it, what drives the algorithm more than anything? Conflict, emotion, viral moments, exactly like this one. And now fans are split in a whole new way. Some believe King Harris was genuinely standing up for himself, reacting in real time, defending his name, doing what anyone would do in that position. Others? They think he got pulled into something bigger, something strategic, something designed to play out exactly the way it did. And 50 Cent? He hasn't fully responded. No detailed explanation. No breakdown. Just a few subtle posts, a couple of emojis, and one caption that has people reading between the lines. Hard. People show you who they are. Just give them time. Now, what does that mean? Is he talking about King? About the situation? About the reaction itself? Nobody knows. Yeah, but what we do know is this. The situation has officially gone beyond a simple confrontation. This is now a full-blown narrative war. And the scariest part? We still don't have the full story. Because if those leaks are even halfway true, then what we've seen so far might not even be the real reveal. It might just be the setup, and whatever comes next might completely flip how we see this entire situation, because right now, it feels like something bigger is about to drop. And when it does, there's no telling who it's going to expose next. And just like that, the internet didn't just react, it erupted. Because this situation, it hit all the elements that make something go nuclear online. Tension, ego, respect, legacy, and most importantly, a moment that feels bigger than what we actually saw. And within minutes of that second clip dropping, timelines were completely flooded. Not just reposts, breakdowns, frame-by-frame analysis. People zooming in, enhancing audio, slowing down reactions, trying to catch things that others missed. Because now it wasn't just about the confrontation, it was about what it meant. And just like before, the internet split into two completely different sides. On one side, you've got people riding with King Harris. Hard. They're saying things like, at least he stood up for himself. Nobody just gonna play with your name like that. That's respect. You don't let someone keep throwing shots and stay silent. He didn't hide behind the internet. He pulled up in real life. For these fans, this wasn't reckless. It was necessary. It was about proving you're not someone to be dismissed or talked about without consequences. They're calling it bold, fearless, even saying it was a moment that earned him respect. But then, you've got the other side, and they're not seeing it that way at all. Because a huge number of people are saying King Harris walked straight into a situation he didn't fully understand. Posts started trending like, he played right into 50's hands. This is exactly what 50 wanted, attention and reaction. You don't confront someone like that on their level. That's a losing game. And that's where the narrative starts getting uncomfortable again. Because now it's not about bravery versus disrespect. It's about strategy versus emotion. And in that debate, people are bringing up history because 50 Cent isn't new to this. Fans are resurfacing old moments, old feuds, old situations where people reacted emotionally and ended up making things bigger for him instead of themselves. And when you put those moments next to what just happened, the comparisons start getting loud. But then, the industry starts reacting, and this is where things get even more interesting. Because unlike fans who go all in, loud and direct, industry reactions are different. Subtle, calculated, but still very telling. One artist posted, "Young energy versus experienced mind. Always an interesting matchup." No names, no direct reference, but everyone knew. Another influencer dropped, "Some people don't argue, they observe. That's the difference." Again, no direct mention, but the timing, too perfect. And then came the quiet reactions. Likes, shares, and people in the industry reposting clips without commentary. And in situations like this, that silence speaks loud, because when people don't openly pick a side, it usually means they're watching closely, evaluating, waiting to see how things play out. And behind the scenes, according to so-called insiders, there's tension, real tension, because this situation has now crossed into territory that affects perception, brand image, reputation. And when that happens, people start moving carefully, distancing quietly, avoiding getting caught in the middle. And that's exactly what's being reported. Now, the real chaos, that's happening in fan discussions, because people aren't just reacting anymore, they're connecting dots. Some fans believe this was a defining moment for King Harris, a moment where he either stepped into his own or exposed something he wasn't ready for yet. Others think this solidified 50 Cent's position, not just as someone who talks, but someone who controls narratives without even trying. And then there's a third group, a growing group, that believes something deeper is going on. Because they're not focused on who won the confrontation. They're focused on the patterns, the timing, the way things unfolded almost too perfectly. From the comment, to the reaction, to the confrontation, to the leaks, to the viral explosion, everything feels connected. And that's where things start getting unsettling. Because when situations feel that calculated, people start asking questions they weren't asking before. Like, was this really spontaneous? Or was it something that was always going to happen? And just when the debate hits its peak, something else adds fuel to the fire, because while all of this is happening, King Harris hasn't fully addressed the situation. No long explanation, no breakdown, no detailed response, just silence. And that silence, it's being interpreted in completely different ways. Some say he's letting the moment breathe. Others say he's regrouping. But a lot of people, they think he's realizing something he didn't see in the moment, but is starting to see now. And if that's true, then what happens next might be very different from what people expect. Because right now, the internet is loud, the reactions are split, the industry is watching, and the narrative still shifting. Because one thing is clear, like, this situation isn't finished. Not even close. In fact, it feels like everything that's happened so far was just the beginning. And if the rumors about what's coming next are true, then the final twist might change everything. And just when it felt like the situation had reached its peak, when the clips had already gone viral, when the debates were at their loudest, when people thought they had finally figured out what happened, that's when everything took one last unexpected turn. Because behind all the noise, all the reactions, all the theories, something else was happening, quietly, and now it's starting to come out. According to multiple whispers and insider claims gaining traction online, there was another interaction after the viral confrontation. One that wasn't filmed, wasn't posted, and wasn't meant for the public at all. No cameras, no audience. Just a smaller circle. And what allegedly happened in that moment. It's changing how people are looking at everything. Because according to these reports, the energy was completely different. No yelling, no aggression, no performance. Just conversation. And that alone is enough to raise questions. Because if the confrontation was as serious as it looked, why would there be a calm follow-up? What changed? And here's where the final twist begins to unfold. Because one source, again, unconfirmed but spreading fast, claims that during that private interaction, 50 Cent said something that didn't sound like a diss, didn't sound like an insult, didn't even sound like a challenge. It sounded like a warning. Allegedly, he told King Harris something along the lines of, "You gotta know what game you're stepping into." Now think about that. Because that line, it hits different depending on how you hear it. Is it disrespect? Or is it advice? Is it a threat? Or is it reality? And that's exactly why this twist is so powerful, because suddenly the narrative shifts again. Now it's not just about confrontation, it's about understanding, about levels, about what it really means to operate in a space where every move is seen, analyzed, and sometimes used. And this is where things get even more layered, because right after that alleged conversation, another subtle moment appeared online. Not viral, not trending, but noticed. A short clip of King Harris, no confrontation, no tension, just walking, talking to someone off camera. And in that clip, you can hear him say one line, "I see it now." That's it. No explanation, no context, just that. And that line, and it's been replayed over and over again. Because what does he see? What changed? What clicked? And suddenly the entire situation starts looking different. Because if that moment is real, then maybe the confrontation wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something else, something deeper, something that goes beyond who said what, and into how things actually work behind the scenes. And now fans are asking a completely new question. Was this a clash or a lesson? Because if you connect everything, the comment, the reaction, the confrontation, the viral footage, the leaked messages, the silence, and now this alleged private exchange, it starts to feel like more than just a random moment. It feels like a turning point, not just for the situation, but for King Harris himself. And that's where things get even more intense. Because if he really sees it now, then what happens next? Does he respond differently? Move differently? Handle things in a way people aren't expecting? Or does something else come out that flips the entire story again? Because let's not forget, we still don't have the full picture. We still haven't seen all the footage. We still don't know what was said behind closed doors. And we still don't know if everything we've seen so far is even the full story. And that's the most unsettling part. Because it means one thing. This situation isn't over. Not even close. In fact, it feels like we're right in the middle of it. And if what's being hinted at is true, then the next move might not be loud, might not be viral, but it could be the one that changes everything. So now the question is, what did King Harris actually see? And whatever it is it going to calm the situation down? Or set off something even bigger? Because if there's one thing we've learned from all of this, it's that every time things look like they're settling, something unexpected happens. And trust me, that next moment, it's closer than people think. Now I need you to lock in for a second. Because this is where it gets real. After everything we just broke down, the algorithm diss, the face-to-face confrontation, the leaked footage, the possible setup, and now that quiet moment where King Harris says, "I see it now." What do you actually think is going on here? Was this a real emotional reaction? Someone defending their name when they felt disrespected? Or did King Harris walk straight into a situation that was already mapped out from the beginning? Because let's be honest, the way everything unfolded, it didn't feel random. The comment goes viral. The reaction builds, the confrontation happens, footage leaks, the internet explodes. That's not normal timing. That's perfect timing. So now I want your real opinion. Did 50 Cent set this whole situation up from the start? Or did King Harris do exactly what anyone in his position would have done? And most importantly, what do you think he meant when he said, "I see it now"? Because that line might be the biggest clue in this entire story. Drop your answers in the comments right now. And don't hold back. I'm telling you, some of y'all theories be sharper than what's actually trending. And if you made it this far, you already know this situation is far from over. There's still more footage that could drop. There could be responses coming. And if things escalate again, this might turn into something way bigger than just a viral moment. So make sure you like this video. If this breakdown had you thinking differently, subscribe because we're staying on top of every update. And turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, the next part of this story, it might expose everything. and you do not want to be late when that drops.